Welcome back to part 2 in the Angular Node MySQL login system series. In this video we'll focus on creating the front end and we'll use Angular Material and Reactive Forms to create our UI. But firstly we'll need to create the front end project. So in a new terminal we will cd into the front end folder, which is just empty at the moment. And we'll create a new Angular project with ng-new, and we'll just call it posts, and we'll set this inside the current directory as we already created the folder here. So I'll just run that command, and I will add Angular routing, yes, and I'll just use SCSS, although we won't be doing heavy styling whatsoever. And I'll just wait for this to install, and now we'll add Angular Material, so we can just say ng add at Angular/material, and we'll just close all these files and even the package JSON and close up everything. So now we're installing Angular Material, and let's just go ahead and use this indigo pink theme. We'll set up the typography styles. I believe that just adds Nanito font and a bit of spacing and stuff like that. We won't need the browser animation, so we'll just do no to that option there. And we'll wait for that to install. So yeah, we've created our Angular app. And if we look in the package JSON in there, we can see that we have the standard dependencies and dev dependencies. So we've got, the TypeScript RxJS, which we'll be using extensively in particular. And okay, so we just go to our source folder and we go to our app folder, and this is where everything sort of starts off here, and we'll open up the app module, and what we'll do is we'll import a few Angular Material modules, and I'm just going to copy these in, but essentially we can just import the material, the button, the card, the icon, the input, the list, and the toolbar modules, because they're all the components that we'll use. And we will need to register those as imports. So in the imports, we can just add these on here like that. And we can save it like that. And now what I'll do is I'll create our components. And the first component that we're going to need is we're going to need a navigation bar. So we'll put that in its own folder, components, and we won't worry about the test file for the spec testing or anything like that. So we'll just say skip test equals to true. So ng-gc components/navigation. Let's see here. Okay, so this should be skip test. So yeah, ng-gc Angular generate component in the components folder, navigation, which will create a navigation folder within components, and we're skipping the spec file. Okay, great. So we're going to create all of our components now. So I'll just repeat that command by pressing up in the terminal, and I'll make a sign up component. A login component, a home page component, and the posts component. So the idea with all these components that we just created is that, and I might just separate these here, is the navigation, they'll be at the top and they'll just indicate to the user how to log in or sign out or sign up or anything like that. So we've got the navigation, and then the sign up, login and home, they'll be all particular pages. So the sign up and login pages, they'll just be, it'll have the navigation at the top of course, but it will also have a form with fields where you can enter the name and password or email and password. Home page is just, you know, a generic page. And then the post component, that's going to be protected, so if you're not logged in you won't be able to access the post page where you can create your own post or delete it or view other people's posts. So that's the general structure of this application. So now that we've created our components and we got these here, we can set up some routing. So in the app routing module, we can open up the app routing module file, and we can go ahead and we can just import all of those components. And I'll just import the home component, post component, login component, sign up component. And we can, here in the routes, this is where we can set up a particular, the path. So for the home path, or just, you know, localhost 4200, this is going to render the home component. And we'll do a similar thing for the other components. And if none of the routes are accessed, or you go to a bad route, we'll just say we'll redirect them to the home page. And of course we want a page for the posts, and that's going to be the post component, and we're going to add some route guarding on this later on, but for now we'll just build the UI itself. So we're going to need a login page, and that's just going to be the login component, and we're also going to need the sign up route, which is just going to be the sign up component, and that's what we're going to work on to start off with. So in the app, and we can save this as well, in the app component in the HTML we can just get rid of all the boilerplate there, and we can say, okay, we want our app navigation to be up the top of all of the pages. So we can do that like that, and below that we can have a div, and that's going to be our router outlet. So that's going to render all the pages, and I'm just going to give this a class just to give it a bit of padding around it, spacing between the ends of the pages and not, and I'll just say this is a container, and then in the SCSS file I'm just going to say, okay, the container class, we're just going to add some margin, so 100 pixels on the top and bottom, and then 10% on each of the sides. So nothing fancy or anything like that, just some basic, and I'll change this to outlet, some basic styling there. So with that I can go to the navigation bar, so I can actually set up the routes itself that this routing module is outputting. So if I open up the navigation component, what I can do here is I can use the map toolbar that we imported before from Angular Material, just here on line 13. So let's say toolbar, and okay, and we'll just make it, we'll give it a color equal to accent. So you know, in Angular Material is the primary, accent and worn. So this is sort of the secondary color. So in the indigo pink theme, this is the pink color, and obviously primary is the indigo. And we will create a navigation bar which has the home address on the left and 3 links on the right. So let's go ahead and create that, and we'll just create a span for that and an A tag. And instead of a href, we'll just have the router link, and this will be going towards the home page. So we can just say slash here, and within this A we can just, you know, have a span, I suppose, and we'll just call this social posts. That's what we'll call our app, social posts. And we can copy this down here. So we can have a router link to /posts, and this will be just the posts. And then we will also on the routing pages, so post, login, sign up, we want to have this router link active to highlight it if it's selected. And I'll give that a certain class, and I'll say that's active link. So, and then I'll just create the other buttons while I'm here. So we'll just copy this span here 2 times, and we'll just change the routes accordingly. So we'll have login, and we'll have sign up. Oops. Oh, sign up. Sign up. Okay, so that's the basic markup for the navigation, and now we can just add some. I can close this now, and this as well. May as well close this as well. So what I can do here is I can just add a little bit of styling for the router links and the toolbar, and this sort of style that we've got here is actually what I want to do is I want to remove these spans here, these outer spans on the links themselves. But I do want to keep just one span on the outer of these. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to use flex, and I'll be able to separate this left side of the home icon or home link from the 3 on the side. So I can go ahead and add my classes now. So for the map toolbar element, I'll just make that display flex, and I'll justify the content so it's spaced between. So, you know, this span here is on the left side and this span here is on the right side. And I can also add a bit of padding here. So I don't necessarily need any padding top or middle. Top or bottom, but just on the left and right hand side, or in the left particular. We can just say 64 pixels of padding here, and since we're using SAS, we can do this nested styling. So the A tag within Mat Toolbar, we'll set the text decoration to none, and you know, since the A tag is what has the active link on it, so on the A tag itself, we can say for the active link here, we can give it a color of, say, white. And also inside the map toolbar, and this is inside the span. Oh, this is the span's inside the A tag. So for the span, you know, we can just give it a bit of margin left, so there's a bit of spacing between, you know, each of the words on the side there. So, okay. One more thing I'll do before we start viewing it is I'll just import something in the app module, and I'll import Reactive Forms module because we're going to create a form on the login page and the sign up page. So on the app module, I'll add, and I'll import it from, let's see here, import Reactive Forms module, and this is coming from Angular Forms. I'll save that and I'll copy this and I'll add that to the imports. So I'll just put that here like that. So with that, I'll just compile our code. So I'll just say npm start, and this is in the second terminal. We still got the node server running in the first, and we'll connect that to it after we've created the UI, of course. So I'll just wait for this to compile here. And I did get a compilation error, and I do need to move this Reactive Forms module from the declarations to the imports. That'll be one thing. So let's save that. And we have compiled our code. So what I'll do here is I'll just go to localhost 4200. And there seems to be another problem here for why our toolbar's not showing. So I just did another npm start, and that seemed to fix things up. And what we can see here is we have this navigation bar where we're routed to the home page here, so we just get the standard default home works for the component. That's that there, and then we can click on the post that goes to the post route and renders the post component, and likewise with the login and sign up components respectively. And then we can click back to the home page if we wish. So what we can do now is we can start to make the form for our sign up page. So I can just close this navigation here for now, and even this app module, and I will open up the sign up component. So we're going to create a form here, and inside of this form we're going to need to have some well, the form's going to be of a form group. We're using a reactive form here, so we'll need to set up that, and I'll call this sign up form. And then when we submit this form, we can do an ng submit, and we'll call a sign up function. And then I don't want to have the HTML validate this. I want to do the validation with the Reactive Forms module. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this no validate flag here. So, and I'm going to create a form control. So I need a mat form field, and each input will have the corresponding form control name. So there's going to be name, email, and password. So what I need to do is I need to create that. So what I can do is I can open up the TypeScript, and I can just go ahead and import a few things here. So I can import, I'm going to need form control, form group, and eventually I'm going to need validators, because we're going to do some client-side validation here as well. And that's at the Angular Forms module. And I just need an L there, form control, and save that. Now we need to create our sign up form, which is of type form group. So our sign up form is a form group, and this corresponds to this part here to denote the form that we're doing. So, okay, and the ng on init, this is where we're going to create our form. So we'll say this dot sign up form, and we'll call a function that we haven't created just yet, but we will, called create form group. So I'll create this function now. We'll just do this below the ng on init here and add the curly braces. And this is going to return a form group. Okay, so all we need to do is we just return a new form group with the appropriate form control names, so name, email, password, and any validation. So for the name, we can say new form control, and this just takes in the form state, if there is any, and it can also take in the validators. So I'm just going to say everything is required. So initially the name is going to be blank, and the validators, we're going to have this set to required. And we'll add another validator here, and we'll just make sure that the name is at least two characters. So validators. So this is the first field that we created. So it's just a form control name field within a form group. And then we'll of course want two more. So I'll copy these down. And I'll change this one to email, this one to password. They're both required. I'll change the min-length of the password to 7. And this validators here, I can change to validators.email. So just a regular expression that ensures that it's a email. So that's all we really need to do to create our form group. And we have this ng submit sign up here. So what I'll do is I'll just console log something out for now, but we will eventually make a request to the database. So right now it's a void, and we'll just do a console log, and this will be this dot sign up form. So we created this sign up form here, and if we want to get the values of it like in object, we can just say dot value. So that's essentially the TypeScript associated with the form that we need. So let's go back to the HTML and actually create the form. So what we can do here in the form is we can say, okay, we can have a map form field, and there's going to be one for each, and there's going to be a map label, and here we'll just say first name, and then we're going to have an input, and this is going to be a map input, and we imported that earlier, a module for that. And I'll just put a placeholder here. So for example, the first name could be John, and we'll add the form control name, which in this case is just name. So name, email, password are what we created there. And then I'll more or less just copy this 2 more times. Put once for the email and once for the password. So this will be email, email, and this will be password and password. Now, to ensure that there is a like we can't see the password, so rather than the text appearing, just those black circles appear, we can just add a type here to this input here, and we'll just say, oh, that's a type password here, like that. Now, the last thing that we need inside the form is just a button to submit this. So this is how the ng submit works. If there's a button inside there of the type submit and we click it, well, then that submits the, they'll call the function sign up, which will in turn submit the data. So what we can do here is we can just have a button, and we'll make this the color pink as well. So we'll give it an accent color. Now, one thing we want to do is we want to disable this unless the sign up form is valid. So we'll get into making it valid soon. And essentially that's just if it meets these validation requirements. So what we can do here is we can just say the button's going to be disabled if the sign up form, so we call this form a sign up form, if it's not valid. And I might make this a raised button so it looks a little nicer with that directive there, and of course it's of the type submit. So I'll just make a span in here, and inside the span I'll just have sign up. I want the button to be over to the right hand side, so if you look at the sign up module, I want each of these fields to be on its own line and the sign up down below on the right. So what I'll do is I'll just add a little bit of CSS to this. So the CSS I'll add is on the form field itself. I'll make those 100% width. And on the button, I'll make it just float to the right and make a width of 200 pixels. And of course you can style it however you like. So let's just have a look at this, see what this does for us. Okay, so we've got this first name here, and if there's nothing there, it's the validation on the client fails, and then this sign up button is disabled. But if we say 3 letters here, and once again it has this email validation, so at gmail.com, and if the password is less than 7, it won't let you do it, but if it's more than 7 and all the fields are valid, then we can click the sign up button. If I click the sign up button, it displays the fields as an object, so the name, email and password that have been entered here and passed validation. So that's what I really wanted to do in terms of setting up the sign up page and working on the material UI. It's more or less the same for login, and we'll just copy that over when we get to the login functionality. But in the next video I actually want to set up the API request on the client side. So I want to actually make this, connect this functionality here to the API, and there's a few things that we need to do to set up that. So that's what we'll work on in the next video, and I'll see you then.